Martell's business decisions have been under question for a long time, but the deleted scene involving Martell, Chris, and Destiny brings those questions into much clearer focus. What viewers originally saw on television was a simple conversation about Martell's new home, his plans to list it, and the timeline for finishing the project. On the surface, it looked like a normal discussion about real estate development. However, the extended version of that scene, which later appeared online, revealed a much deeper and more uncomfortable exchange that completely changed the tone of the situation. In the deleted part of the scene, Chris directly questioned Martell about a previous investment property. This was not just a casual question. Chris asked why that home never sold and why it was never rented out, even though it was supposedly built as an investment. This moment was important because it showed that Martell had already faced challenges with a similar project before moving on to build yet another high-end home. That context was missing from the televised episode, and without it, viewers were left with an incomplete understanding of Martell's track record. According to what was revealed in the deleted footage, the previous home Martell built was also meant to be sold or rented. That was the original plan. However, neither of those things happened. Instead, the decision was made for Ariani to live in the home. Allegedly, this was not planned from the beginning. It appears to have been a choice made because Martell was unable to sell or rent the property. This detail matters because it shows a pattern, not an isolated incident. When a business plan changes due to market failure, that should lead to reflection and adjustment. From a basic business point of view, this raises serious concerns. Business is about finding a need in the market and meeting that need with the right product. If there is no strong demand for multi-million-dollar homes in a specific area like Huntsville, then continuing to build those homes does not make sense. It does not solve a problem. Instead, it creates more inventory that sits unsold. Unsold inventory ties up money, increases risk, and puts pressure on future projects. Chris calling Martell out on this highlighted what many viewers have been thinking for a long time. Why continue to build the same type of property after already experiencing failure with a similar one? Most people, after failing to sell a home at a certain price point, would take a step back. They would look at what went wrong. They would study the market and adjust their strategy. That might mean building smaller homes, more affordable homes, or properties that better fit what buyers in that area are actually looking for. In Martell's case, however, it appears that he chose to repeat the same approach instead of changing it. This decision is what leaves many people confused and frustrated. It is not about ambition. Ambition alone does not equal good business sense. Without understanding the market, ambition can actually lead to repeated losses. When supply exists without demand, it becomes a financial risk, not a smart investment. This is why so many people question whether ego plays a role in these decisions. Building million-dollar homes sounds impressive. It looks good on paper. It creates a certain image. But if those homes are not selling, the image means very little. At the end of the day, success in business is measured by results, not appearances. A property that sits empty does not generate income, no matter how beautiful it looks. Another major issue raised by this situation is how the scene was handled by production. The fact that such an important part of the conversation was cut from the televised episode raises concerns about favoritism and image protection. When viewers are only shown selected clips that make someone look better, it limits their ability to form an honest opinion. Showing the full conversation would have allowed viewers to judge Martell's business logic for themselves. Selective editing has been a recurring complaint among fans. Certain cast members appear to be protected from harsh criticism, while others are shown in their worst moments. This imbalance affects how viewers perceive the cast and shapes public opinion in ways that may not reflect reality. When production decides what to hide and what to show, they control the narrative, and that control can lead to unfair backlash against those who are not receiving favorable edits. Questions about Martell's builder's license also came up during this discussion. There have been claims that he has now obtained the license, but many people feel that transparency is missing. In an industry where credibility matters, showing proof would go a long way in clearing doubts. The hesitation to provide clarity only fuels speculation. When information is withheld, people naturally start asking more questions. There is also the unresolved issue of the hotel project from earlier seasons. That project was presented as a major achievement. It was talked about as a big win. Yet, years later, there has been little to no visible progress. Whether the delays are due to market conditions, funding problems, or other challenges is unclear. The lack of updates makes it difficult to separate reality from exaggeration. This uncertainty adds to the growing distrust among viewers. A phrase often used to describe this situation is that wisdom is chasing him, but he is faster. This reflects the idea that lessons are being presented, but they are not being applied. Making the same choices again and again while expecting different results is not growth, it's repetition. In business, repetition without improvement leads to failure. Instead of focusing on expensive builds that struggle to sell, a more logical approach would be to focus on properties that match the local market. Homes in a price range that average buyers can afford would likely sell faster and provide steady returns. This strategy would show real business understanding rather than a desire to impress. True success is not about headlines, it's about sustainability. Shifting focus to the next major topic, Carlos King recently shared strong opinions about reality stars who quit shows or try to avoid drama. He made it clear that he believes reality television is not for everyone. According to him, those who choose to be on reality TV should be prepared for criticism, conflict, and intense public attention. While he didn't name specific individuals, his comments sparked a lot of conversation. Carlos' frustration with cast members who say they don't want drama or who feel upset when viewers label them as boring comes from a production perspective. From his point of view, reality television thrives on conflict and emotional moments. Without those elements, he believes shows lose their appeal. There is some truth to this. Drama does attract viewers. Emotional moments create buzz. However, this perspective doesn't tell the whole story. It's important to consider the human side of reality television. These are real people, not just characters. No one wants to be seen as boring, messy, or disliked. It's natural for people to care about how they're perceived. The problem arises when editing creates an unfair image. When someone is consistently shown in a negative light, it can take a serious toll on their mental and emotional health. Many past members feel they are not allowed to show their full personalities because their actions are edited to fit a certain storyline. If production decides someone is the villain or the boring one, everything they do is framed through that lens. This lack of control can be frustrating and damaging. It also explains why some people choose to step away from reality TV. Carlos also suggested that some individuals join reality shows mainly for exposure or business promotion. He implied that those people might be better suited for Shark Tank. While this point has some merit, it also oversimplifies the situation. Reality television does not have to follow one formula. There is room for different types of stories and personalities. Not all reality TV needs constant fighting and chaos. Some shows succeed by focusing on growth, relationships, and real-life challenges. Authentic moments can be just as engaging as dramatic ones. Creating an environment where drama happens naturally rather than being forced can lead to more meaningful content. Another point Carlos raised is that some reality stars do the bare minimum but still expect fame and success. This may be true in certain cases. However, it's also important to recognize the role of contracts and production decisions. If certain behaviors are discouraged or edited out, cast members may feel limited in how they can contribute. The relationship between cast, production, and audience is complex. Viewer reactions also play a major role. When fans react strongly to edited content, it can lead to online harassment that goes well beyond simple criticism. This is where lines are crossed. Criticizing behaviors shown on television is fair. Personal attacks and threats are not. The impact of this kind of negativity can push people to leave shows, not because they can't handle drama, but because they want to protect their peace. Carlos mentioned that some stars leave shows because they can't handle fan reactions, only to later want to return. While this may happen, it's not always about missing fame. Sometimes it's about reclaiming one's story or correcting a distorted image. People grow, circumstances change, and perspectives shift. One of the most sensitive topics discussed was the treatment of Melody and her supporters. Many viewers felt that a season focusing heavily on her fan base came across as retaliatory. Instead of addressing issues directly, the narrative shifted towards portraying supporters as aggressive or problematic. This approach created division and resentment among viewers. When a show appears to target a specific individual or group, it damages trust. Viewers begin to question the motives behind the storytelling. This loss of trust is one of the reasons some cast members choose to walk away. It's not always about avoiding conflict. Sometimes it's about maintaining self-respect and emotional well-being. Despite all the negativity, there was a positive moment highlighted through Melody's Winter Wonderland event. The event was sold out and attended by people from across the country. It was a celebration of growth, strength, and community. The atmosphere was choosing to stay means accepting the risks that come with public exposure. Choosing to leave means prioritizing peace and personal growth. Neither choice is easy, and neither should be judged without understanding the full context. What is shown on television is not always the full story. Deleted scenes, selective editing, and controlled narratives shape what viewers see. Looking beyond the surface helps provide a deeper understanding of the decisions people make and the paths they choose. At the heart of it all is authenticity. Authentic business practices matter. Authentic storytelling matters. Authentic relationships with viewers matter. When authenticity is sacrificed for image or forced drama, cracks begin to show. When people choose honesty, growth, and transparency, the results speak for themselves. These conversations remind us that success is not just about being seen. It is about being real. Whether in business, entertainment, or personal life, real growth comes from learning, adapting, and staying true to what matters most.